All right, everybody, welcome back to the channel. We're doing another breakdown, or actually we're looking at another breakdown from the film, The Fundamentals of Caring. And this one is interesting because we take what reads on the paper like a little three-hander. We're just going to have a little bit of back and forth, and it explodes into, I think, all up about 14 different shots, 14 different angles that you have to light for. We've positioned the talent in such a way that it's almost impossible to be able to just light the space and shoot the scene and maintain any amount of contrast. So always fun to see how what looks like a really simple scene blows up on the day, and also in just how hard it is to manage the look and the levels and how much movement and how much infrastructure is going to be required on the actual ground. So that's what we're looking at today. If you want to see the entire breakdown, think about becoming a Patreon member. It is the hive mind of cinematography online. Very, very proud of all the members in there and the content. It's definitely something to look into if you want to take your cinematography to the next level, and you get to see all the breakdowns. There's a new one each and every week, just like this, but significantly longer. Okay, let's take a look at the fundamentals of caring. This light now, this dictates what we can do for the entire scene. All of the lighting that we are going to get has to be done in this exact scene. Now, is this a studio? You would think yes, right? That would just be my guess. Something, I don't know how big the budget was for this, but just on a normal film, you would hope that this is going to be a studio. If you were actually doing it, maybe it's not. I don't know. It doesn't matter. Just being that, if it's not a studio, what you end up limiting is the ability to get this shot comes down to how wide the room is and the space is and the focal length, so it limits your options. Here you can compress it and make it a little bit easier for yourself if you're in a studio to bring lights from above and have a little bit of shape. But the important thing to remember is that this shot, if you get in the space and you're on location and you're in conversation with the director, it's like, okay, we really need to nail this shot. We want this master wide that we can cut back to at any time. This thing will take the longest by far, and it will also be the most important thing that you light, because you have to get some semblance of whatever you can capture the rest of the other shots, the rest of the scene. You have to get some semblance of that here, and it's going to be the hardest to do because you're going to be, especially if you're on location, it's going to be really cramped in the ceiling. Like if you're doing wall busters here, if you're spreading a grid across the top, or however you're going to manage the room tone in here, or any of the key light or anything, this is going to be the most challenging shot. So thinking in terms of how can I get what I want in this shot, and then everything else becomes easier. That is one way to do it, or you go the Rocketman approach. Now, is this the easiest way to set up this scene? Let's just watch it through, and then we'll come back here. So he comes in, and basically it becomes a little three-hander here, right? This is the Mackay triangle. This is not the Mackay triangle. We'll talk about what the Mackay triangle is for everybody that doesn't know, but this is it. This is the most efficient way to cover a scene, and most efficient is probably, we're really screwed for time, we need solutions. There are tons and tons of angles inside of this little conversation, right? You got his super close-up, you've got his over the shoulder to him, you've got his over the shoulder to him, that's 3. Then we've got the cut back out to the Mackay triangle wide version, that's 4. Where do we go from here? 4, we go to, back to his close, back to the close in Mackay triangle, that's 5. Her angle to him as he walks away, that's 6. Her to him, that's 7. Him alone, that's 8. I think we counted that one. That's 9 to her. That's 10, the wider version. We already counted that one, Did we count the over? Is that 11? And we've done all those angles. 11 so far, plus the wide. Super wide was 12, right? Which is this one. That's 12. I mean, that is there's 12 shots in this little space. And that's not even counting the scene starts here, right? Really, this is 1. So this is 13. 13 different angles inside this little tiny room, plus the sit down here. Little haircut there just to keep things interesting. Mute that so I don't have to hear it. Okay, so let's talk about the geography if we go to the wide shot and what makes this scene challenging, and could it be possible to do it any easier? It's tough because, again, this is much like when we looked at Rocketman. Okay, this little two-hander here, this is the office scene, right? Anytime you have two people talking, they're confronting each other this way along the line, okay, at each other, as opposed to sitting both on the sofa. That would change our coverage. These two are at each other, right? So this becomes our office scene. And look, behind we have the windows. Now, it doesn't matter if those are real or not. We've got shears. No curtains, just shears, which means the light is going to spread all over the place. You can feel, right, there's something up here as well, a little window source that is adding most of the room tone. if you can, it's great if you can. You know, even if this thing doesn't exist, we actually did this on the film that I shot, where there was basically modern windows that look like this, and all we did was add this fake thing here, and then put the curtains down from the fake thing, and then over the top we had an area that we could push room tone in. So this is a great little idea. Even if this doesn't exist, these things are really easy to build out, and if you give the production team enough lead time, you can get these done. Right? They just clip onto the walls here. It's super, super simple to do. These shears weigh nothing. Then you put the hangers from here. And if you're gonna 2-3-5 it like we are here, and we don't have to see up here, that just gives us a little tiny cheat to get more ambient push in the room. Because what you would have to do, if this didn't exist, right? And let's say now the whole light goes this way and all of up here gets dark. It gets really hard to push light into here. Even if you want it to be nice and down like it is here, it just gets hard to get any push into the room. So what you end up having to do is you have to do the above the scene wall busters. You've probably seen this on every behind the scenes for movies. You just need to carry the light further into the room, right? Phantom Thread is probably the most famous for this. You see the architecture of the ceilings in those locations, and every, whatever it is, 6 feet, there'll be another light mat that just helps carry the light so it feels nice and even as you go along. But it's really, really hard to do. So a much easier way to do it is get these things, put those inside the frame, figure it out with your 2-3-5 with your little Artemis, and they go, okay, let's just plant it here. And then above that, we can push in more level. It looks like it's broken up, right? That's just a little trick. But going back to our scene here, we're in between these two. He's gonna come around and stand in this spot, okay? So number one, if we know we're gonna get this wide, right? Well, it would make sense then in our coverage in here that we would want to be on the other side of the line, right? I guess it only really works because we get interrupted by the entrant of the third person, right? The guy in the wheelchair. We see him come in because you would want to play it this way. Where is it? Come on. You'd want to play everything this way, right? But then we want to key from the other side over here. But that doesn't work. Keying from over here doesn't work because in the wide, we see that there is nothing over there. Right? Where are you, wide? We can see that there's just a wall. And we're using this as our key for any sort of shape in this early stuff, right? Like we're just, well, let's carry this level, split it down this way, split into darkness here. And we're really in no man's land because there's really no key source. We're just saying, well, this is going to be the side that the key comes from because we can choose. But it makes it really, really complicated jumping around because now we have to light every single time we're changing lots and lots of things. We're changing the neg placement. We're changing the key placement for all of these frames bumping in and out. It's just not simple, all because we're facing that window, right? And that it might not be because, oh, we really wanted to face the window. It might be because in our conversations with the director, we need this entrance, right? This entrance of this wide shot. We want to see him cutting across the back of the frame, right? Maybe that's the entire reason that we are parked this way. But it seems like you could, in this space, eliminate a lot of work. Now, you also eliminate a lot of options of choosing the other side of the line. But if you just go to the wide shot, where are you? There. If you just change the geography of this setup here between these two, it changes everything, right? That's the one decision that pushes you down a path from which you cannot recover as soon as you go down that path, right? There's no going back. It's not like it's a good or bad decision. It all stems from this. Where is this interaction going to take place? Because as soon as we decide that, that affects all of our lighting. So just as you're going through the process, these are the big things that in the location scout, in the tech scout process, just trying to identify which scene are we talking about. And when I say scene, I mean which of the common filming things, setups that we often talk about. Is this an office scene? Is this a dinner time scene? Is this the dinner table scene? Is this the bar scene? What is it? Then you break it down into that. Then you know automatically in the back of your mind, while everything else is going on, all the craziness is going, you can start to filter out options and say, okay, this is going to be good. I can put this option up because it's going to save us time, or this is going to cost us time, or this is for the character development, right? If you're in the narrative world and you really want to dork out on what this all means, well, you can start to filter ideas that way too. So just as quick as you can, the better you get at identifying what the bare bones of the scene are, it's going to help you come up with solutions, basically. So what are we doing here? We're lighting from behind. We're using our curtains, trying not to blow them out, but they get really close here. It doesn't really feel like they're pushing much into the room this way. So we're keying from this side, right, which is not ideal from a shape perspective, especially because we start the scene We walk over, we cut, we're on the shadow side of the line, right, with a nice little edge. Now this is pretty frameworky, but as we know, this is the hardest way to do the framework. When you're balancing against what is supposedly the brightest thing in the image, we're getting our backlight from there, it's really hard to judge that return, right? And even someone as good as this, it's very hard to make look good. The hardest bit. So you're already deciding, I'm gonna make this difficult on myself. We're on the shadow side, we're not giving any push to her, right? There's really normally you could, if you wanted to match this with this, you'd put, again, just a light to help extend the wrap and add a little bit of edge here. And when I say edge, I would mean just there, right? You wouldn't want to push into the shadow at all, but it's just adding a little something like there is here, but just amplifying it. You would just do that by, again, going inside the room and helping push it along. But this is tricky. This is really tricky, but we're on the shadow side, right? Also, this wallpaper is not helping, right? It's not skin tone color, but it's light. It doesn't give much depth, even like this looks like the corner of the room, but you don't really get much shadow there, right? Looks like there's a corner there. And oops, maybe there's not actually. Still on the shadow side, right? Which is nice. Nice for her because we have some shape. You can see the ceiling back there. This is nice and dark. We've got our same setup that we had here with our little curtain holders here, our rod holder. Then we have the shears that are going all the way down to the ground. Got our practical on in the middle of the day. And then this, for some reason, we jump to the other side of the line. Right now things, maybe it's a psychological thing, whatever, during the story, like things have shifted. As soon as you sit down or the question that she's asked, you've made it a point to switch. Now, what happens if you switch? It just flattens everything off. We lose looking into that dark side, which you may like the look of. I particularly don't like it. But you'll see, again, because we've parked them right up against the window here, and we are against the shears, it just gets very, very flat and not super flattering. Really hard to hold those levels. This one, now we're back on the other side of the line for some reason, right? We've gone from, whoop, now for hers, we flop, which, okay. Now you can see this one, I like the look of that one, right? Again, because she's not right up against the wall, the depth from the depth of field and just the way that it feels, even having this little stuff in here, having these things, having this little bit of sofa there, it just adds to the layers. You couple that with him in there as well, and it's all of a sudden looking really nice. But look at how, because it's dark back there and we're not pumping any level through these windows, or we're pumping very minimal level through these windows, it's not competing with the main key source. Whereas his, and that's significantly crunchier. There's lots and lots of different things going on that you have to balance out and flatten off on the day if you really want to get nuanced about it. Whereas hers is, this is an easy lighting setup. You just turn around and basically the diffusion is doing the work. You just have to shape the neg here, right? You just have to decide how much of this you want. And you can do this by, like if we go, where's the wide shot? To get this shape on the face, right? A real quick and easy way to do it is in the wide, where are you? Ta-da, right there, okay? Say we're filming that close-up that we just looked at. What you would want to do is you put the camera here, right? We're looking towards her. Really, all you do is end up putting just duvetine on the window, blocking it out. Block out that bit of the window, then this becomes your key. That, you know, is what, essentially like a 3x4. That's your 4x4 frame right there that does the softening. And then you black all this out so no more level comes through, and then you add that little tiny edge light, and you end up with a very, very quick way to do this shot, right? Because add that, you already have the eye light because it's the window that she's looking into. When you neg off that window and place duvetine on the window, this shoulder's automatically gonna get darker. So then anything you can do that is a really quick fix that you can also manipulate around you, like if you're operating this camera and you want a little bit more on his shoulder here, right? So you just want a tiny, tiny bit of level. You reach behind you, you lift up the curtain a little bit. That's it, you're done. You don't have to ask anybody. It's so much quicker if you can just do little tiny things around the camera that you can easily manipulate yourself. Doesn't matter how big the team gets. Sometimes it's just like, man, I just gotta do it myself. Like I'm just gonna move this thing or bump this over. Like there's just some things that are easier just to do by yourself. Okay, here, then we're out to this corner shot, which again, now we've got practical, got lots of practicals there. Let me just open up those blinds and, okay, interesting choice like this. And again, this could be like your psychological choice, but this wide of an eye line where he's looking way over there. Either they're filming with a second camera here, doing the long lens, getting that single Well, this is just seems really wide to me. Like if I was the operator, I would say to the dolly grip, hey, take us that way, grab us left a little bit, please, because I want to close this gap between these two. Right? It seems really quite wide. But then that could be your psychological effect that you want to add into the audience. Like they are separated. They just met. They're random people. That's the way you want to play it. Then she's on her own, right? She's all by herself. Now, she probably is all by herself because if we're going to match distance here, and this is a location, it's really hard to bump her into the middle of nowhere, right? Without making it too fake. Because if we want to get his shoulder in here like it is in the previous shot, for her, we're going to have to be right up against the wall. We're going to have to move all this crap out into the middle of the room, which might start to look a little bit funky. You know, as we cut between the wide and this one, may mean that we just have to move this chair like 5 feet back, which may look a little bit too weird. So that's probably why they've gone that way with the single. But still, we come out to the wide. Now we're on this side of the line, right? Which is the same side as that. And then we're back to this side of the line. Okay, now for the actual coverage, this is the Mackay triangle, which you can do. Where is it? Where's a good place to stop? I think he goes back to it here. Okay, this is the Mackay triangle, where you have these 3 people, and our main guy is this one, right? He's the one talking to both. Very little interaction between these two looking at each other. So you pick basically your key character, and you're going to place them right in the center, and then you're going to have these two talk back and forth. And this can work in a close-up, or it can work in this, like a wider shot like this, right? And it's the most efficient coverage because you only really need this angle. You get this one closer in, and you have plenty of options for going this to this and this to this, right? The alternative is, if we're going to go like overs on each direction that the person is looking, we got to get a shot here looking this way, then we got to get a shot here looking this way, or here, sorry, here looking this way. So we're doubling our shots for every single size that we have to do, which gets really, really complicated. And then normally what you do, if you're going to do the triangle like this, where our point person is here, and you're going to put them in the middle of the image, then have the 2 on the outside. When you come around to do the reverse, you are going to choose over the shoulder on, you know, the downstage side, right? You're going to choose over the shoulder, and you're going to play both of these in the frame, and only this shoulder in the frame, which I think they end up doing. I think it's the next shot. So you're not going to do this, right? This is a very labor-intensive way of covering. You're going to do, not that one, this one. Not even. Where is it? This one, right? But you're probably going to pepper the person's shoulder into the mix here. That's like your bare bones. What do we need to actually get this scene done? That's the easiest way to do it. Because you don't want to do, what you don't want to do is 3 of these triangles, right? Because that gets really, really boring. Normally what you would do is 1 triangle like this, where our man's in the center, and then the over to both of these 2. But there's just so much back and forth here. It's like we've done this. Now, we got his super close-up, which he's the only one that has this real super close-up. Then we're back to the triangle shot. Brand new angle, right? Which this one looks good, right? Because now we're shooting that way that we originally talked about, shooting along the window, which makes it significantly easier to shape. Then we're in front, right? We go from behind, so like a French over, to in front. And then we go back to him single, then him single in a new single, and then the over. And then we're back out. Like, this is complicated. Very, very crazy way to cover this scene because there's just so much into it. And then back again. Back to that 2, which we've seen. Then the over the shoulder. Like, you see how easy the shots add up. As soon as you start figuring, oh, we just need 1 over. Well, then we need the matching 2. It's like doing alt lines on commercials. Oh, well, let's just try an alt line, the first shot of the day in the master wide. And then for the next 7 hours, you are filming alt lines on scenes that were never supposed to have alt lines. And everybody wonders why you go 5 hours over. So all this stems from, number 1, deciding, okay, we need overs, or we need to be inside the conversation, right? We do all the options here. There's not really another way you could cover this scene that isn't in here. We've done from the outside in, then we do, this is inside the conversation. Same as that one, that's inside the conversation. But this is inside the conversation on a long lens too. Normally you'd see this, if you were in the Roger Deakins world, this would be like in the middle of the conversation, so in the middle of the triangle of people, but we'd be on like a 32 or 29. This is like we're in the middle of the conversation, but this is a 65, right? So we're just really singling them out. Okay, so complicated scene, really hard to cover. And it's one of those ones where, oh, it reads in the script, like guy comes in, sits down, they have a little bit of back and forth. That one should be easy. Don't even have to give it much thought. And then you get there on the day and you see the wide, and then you see all the other shots, and they got to sit down. It's like, this is going to take forever. This is going to be a tricky one. All right, you see what I mean there. Like a couple of key decisions means that we need a significant amount of coverage. And this goes from being, I don't know, a couple hour scene to an entire day scene, just with the style that we are going to impose and where we place the talent inside of the location. So inside the room makes all the difference. So don't ignore those early on decisions, because you will be paying for it for the rest of the shoot, for the rest of the day, if you decide on something that's going to need that much complexity to be able to pull off. Okay, that's going to do it for this one. We will see you in the next one. Goodbye.